Thanks, Nicole. The Pope's visit to the Borderland is still fresh in many people's minds. It was truly a historic event. Hundreds of thousands celebrated Mass with the Pope in Juarez. Of course, here in El Paso, we had the Two Nations One Faith event at the Sun Bowl. 30,000 people attended that, and many, many more were glued to their televisions on Wednesday watching from home. When Pope Francis touched down in Juarez, he was greeted by hundreds of people in bleachers set up at the city's airport. He was also greeted by our own Bishop Mark Seitz of the Catholic Diocese of El Paso, and he joins us now live. Hi, welcome back.
Good evening, good to be here.
So everyone in our newsroom is very curious. The diocese posted the interaction between you and the Pope on social media, and it appears he's really talking to you intently and he's pointing. What were you guys talking about?
Well, of course, it was still a very brief conversation, but he was very sincerely thanking us for having that event on the El Paso side, because I think one of his priorities in coming to Juarez was to show how a community can still be united even though they have a border between them. So I believe he chose our area because he thought this would be a place that would show that reality, you know, how we can live as one community nonetheless.
Absolutely. What can you tell us about the bridge that was supposed to connect from Juarez into El Paso that he was supposed to walk across?
Well, that was just an early dream that we had. It would have been really neat.
Yes.
But as we looked into the complexity of all that, building something that quickly, the cost of it, the kind of permissions that we would have needed at the highest levels of government on both sides, we said we better focus on just what we can do in 2 months.
Yesterday we showed drone footage that they took on the Mexican side, and it was about 250,000 people gathered, and everything looked so organized, so calm, so peaceful. What was your experience over there?
That was the case. It was just amazing because there were so many details, as you can imagine, and so many things that are difficult to control. But it just seems like for an event like this, people catch that spirit and they're very cooperative, and the spirit was so joyful, hopeful. I'll never forget it.
Oh, and it's so surprising that we did so well, both El Paso and Juarez, because we had 9 weeks to prepare.
Right.
When most places, Washington, Philadelphia, they had a year, more than a year to prepare, so we did really well. And I was at the Sun Bowl for the celebration. That was a beautiful celebration. I mean, it just went off perfectly. What have you heard about it?
That's what I've heard. The word flawless is the word I hear a lot. And I'm very relieved, I might say, in a certain way, because there again it was a race to the finish.
Yeah, lots of planning.
I've heard that there were many tears, that people really did feel close to what was happening in Juarez, and of course that acknowledgement by the Pope at the end of his homily was amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And we did report that the diocese had to fill up the stadium to break even, and because we didn't, we had about 30,000 people. The stadium can hold about 51,000. That puts you guys in the hole a little bit. Are you going to feel that?
Well, the truth is that we never intended the ticket sales to cover the cost of the stadium, just to be a part of it. And so we knew from the beginning that we needed to seek sponsorships. We were hoping for some corporate sponsorships. We did get some. And then we looked to the broader church in the United States. The United States Conference of Bishops came through with a wonderful donation, Knights of Columbus. So we did receive some. We're still kind of tallying the figures. We don't know exactly where we'll land, but what a great opportunity. We'll never regret what we did.
Absolutely. It was worth every penny, for sure. Okay, to put you on the spot, the Mass was a big deal, but as soon as Pope Francis got on that plane, controversy erupted between him and Donald Trump. He got Donald Trump all riled up. He said something along the lines of, Christians don't build walls, they build bridges. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on this Pope being so outspoken?
Right, well, that's Pope Francis, right? I mean, he's not fearful. But I think there has been a fair amount of misinterpretation about the whole exchange. For one thing, even Donald Trump, I understand this morning, was saying, well, now that I've had the chance to see the whole transcript, the Pope's words weren't as strongly directed as I thought. He was responding to the way a question was formed. The question talked about not only building the wall, but also expelling 11 million people and separating families. All of that came in the question. So that's one aspect of it. I think another aspect is that there's a problem of language here, you might say. When we use the term Christian, we can use it in a lot of different senses, right? And if we use it for a survey, for instance, they ask people, well, what's your religion? And they'll say Christian. If they believe in God, if they believe that Jesus is the Son of God, they may have no other connection with their faith than to be able to say that. So that's one way the word is used. There's another way that the word is used, the one more that the Pope deals in, you might say, and that is as a parallel for the word disciple.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
A disciple, Jesus made clear, a person who can take on that name of Christian, is a person who is committed to following Christ and in all of his teaching and in his actions. Jesus even talked about, if you want to be my disciple, take up your cross daily and follow me, right? He said, those who say, Lord, Lord, won't enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my heavenly Father. So that's another sense of that term Christian. And I think the Pope was remarking that, based on his reading of the gospel, we should be talking more about bridges than about walls.
I see. Yes, and Pope Francis, he really has a strong message for the world. During his Mass, he reached out to so many people, including the youth and young people. What was your biggest takeaway from the Mass?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think a tremendous sense of the unity that we have in the church and all of those, really people of goodwill. The Pope is able to capture that and call us together in that way. And for me, as the Bishop of El Paso, considering all the people that were gathered on the El Paso side, people from El Paso that had come, for me it was just a wonderful celebration of the unity that we really share. We talk about it. In many ways we live it from day to day, but there it was, visible for the world.
Well, that is amazing, and I'm so happy that you got to experience it in the flesh. That's amazing. And thank you for sharing your experience with us here on ABC7.
Good to be here, Ashley.
Anytime.